Welcome back to Color Class. I'm Sarah.
I'm Lucinda.
And we are back with part 2 of our blended systems, which is kind of evolving around the 6 dominant characteristics. So if you are somebody that has neutrality to them, I should air quotes that neutrality, meaning you have competing features like me with cooler eyes, warmer hair, neutral skin tone. If you have warm skin tone, opposite of me, cool hair, anyone that has competing features, we like to call that neutrality to them, this is the video for you.
Yeah, you may find yourself in a blended season. Just a quick little review. When we start with the 4 seasons, the 4 seasons are like 4 big buckets that everybody on the earth, you throw them into one bucket or the other.
Supposedly.
But
That's where we differ.
Face it. You don't fit in one of 4 buckets necessarily. Very few of us fit perfectly in one of the 4 buckets. And that's where blended seasons come in. We use the dominant characteristics to help us understand better who you are in terms of your nuances. And that gives us blended seasons where we can look at, you've got elements of this, you've got elements of that. In our part 1, we dealt with light, deep,
soft, and deep. Yes.
Not necessarily in that order.
No.
But today we're looking at the opposite of soft, which will be clear. And then, of course, we'll be doing
warm and cool.
Right.
Now, starting off, let's just start off with cool because we have that up on our screen. So,
okay,
our cool is going to be our combination of winters and summers. Both of those seasons are cool. The difference is winters are deep and summers are light. But what happens if you're medium?
In between. Basically, what happens, the typical winter is, quote, deep and cool. So there are classic winters. I would say, who is Elizabeth Taylor?
Yes,
was
love
a
Elizabeth
classic winter. You know, before her hair went white. When she had black hair, that very pale skin. Who else? Is Anne Hathaway a classic winter?
Yeah, pretty classic.
Yeah, I think so. So there are people who have that particular coloring that we could say, okay, well, they fit pretty well in the bucket. But what happens when you have a Dakota Johnson who just isn't quite, she has cool hair.
Yeah.
And it's deep. But there's something about her that just isn't a classic winter. She's softer than that. Now, I call her a soft winter. Some people call her a winter-summer blend. But her hair is so deep, it's difficult to squeeze her into a season.
Because the winter colors look too intense on her, but the summer colors are a little too soft for her.
They're too light.
Right. So we take the middle of that palette.
Yes.
So colors that look really good on just cool. If you meet both of these requirements, cool blues, cool purples, charcoals. So they're kind of in between. They have a medium tonality to them. They're not super high and super intense, but they're not super soft and delicate, like lighter.
Not too light,
right?
Not too deep.
Just
right in the middle. Sort of Goldilocks like.
Exactly, Goldilocks. Speaking of cool people, isn't Goldilocks like golden
she was
blonde or
gold.
something? Yes.
No, I basically saying not too warm, not too cool. She's just right.
She's in the middle. She's medium.
Yeah.
But very cool because everything's cool about her. So that's what our cools. Now, opposite of cools, warm.
There are some warm folks who fit perfectly into the spring category. And there are some warm folks who fit perfectly into the autumn category. Springs are bright blondes, golden blondes, lots of warmth. Autumns, softer browns, auburns. So basically you go from being really bright to really soft. But what happens in the middle?
That gray area.
Well, it's not gray because it's warm.
The neutral area.
That's right. In the neutral area, you're not really bright and you're not really soft. You're kind of in the middle. And you give a great example of Jessica Alba when she has her hair dyed blonde.
Mm-hmm.
She's got some brightness,
Mm-hmm.
but she's not quite soft enough to be called a total autumn.
Right.
She's
There's
got
softness,
warm
but
skin,
yep.
strawberry blonde hair, for example. She's a blended season.
Right.
She's somewhere between
Mm-hmm.
spring and autumn. Her dominant characteristic is, meaning what she has that's just rock solid, hair, eyes, skin. It's warm.
Mm-hmm. Now, color palettes for warms. Going back to corals. Corals look, I mean, it's kind of like the...
But these are orangey or corals,
right,
I think.
warmer
They're-
than watermelon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you have your golden yellows, your peachier, like browns, things like that. So they're mid-tone colors. When we talk tonality, they're not light, they're not deep, they're right in the middle. And then you have a whole lot of warmth to them. And that's where our warm, part of our 6 dominant characteristic system, or our blended seasons.
Now, I love this one. And maybe we've done it a bit of a disservice because we dealt with soft in part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Each of these has a counterpart. Just to recap, you have light versus deep, warm versus cool, and you have soft versus clear.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do that with your hands that Sarah and I are doing to make it absolute.
We're visual learners.
Exactly. But clear, and we're kind of doing it a disservice because we did soft in a previous video. But clear is the opposite of soft, meaning you have lots of contrast between your hair, your skin, your eyes, your skin, the whole triad. Just a lot of contrast. A blended season for clear would be a spring-winter blend, meaning you're somewhere between warm and cool. But spring is bright and winter is clear. They mean the same thing. I don't know why exactly it has evolved in color analysis that we call spring a bright season and winter a clear season. They both mean the same thing. Lots of high contrast.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true of the clear dominant characteristic, lots of contrast. So you're not really looking at that person and saying, oh, they're warm. Not really looking at that person and saying, oh, they're cool. Can't really say that because it's all over the place. But you are looking at that person and saying, wow, lots of contrast here.
Mm-hmm. So Adriana Lima, very warm skin tone here, very cool hair here. Now, I do believe this is spray tan, but this is a really good example of warm and cool competing, finding harmony in the clear category. So hair or colors that are going to look amazing are bright jewel tones, like we talked about earlier with greens. To make green, you need yellow and you need blue. And when they come together here, you're going to have a very clear, a very vivid emerald green almost. Fuchsia, clear reds that fall right in between orange red and blue red. That's where the clear season falls. One thing I wanted to bring up, the difference between clear and deep, because we had Kerry Washington earlier in deep. And she could necessarily fall into clear because she does have a good amount of contrast.
Some.
Right. But the reason I put her in deep for those instances, because there wasn't enough high contrast there. Usually we can get contrast with our eyes, the whites of our eyes being really intense, and our smile, because our smile brings in another high contrast moment because we have white versus our very dark hair,
Black
for
hair.
example. So
we
have high to low.
But her hair, because it's generally curly, it doesn't read as black. So often it reads as dark brown.
Right.
And it doesn't really read as cool dark brown exactly. With black hair, you often have blue highlights on black hair.
Right.
And so that gives it that coolness. The reason that this is a perfect example of clear versus Carrie, which I think deep is better for Carrie because you've got deep skin, deep hair, deep eyes.
Right.
Easy peasy, deep. With light, you're looking for light, light, light. You know, you have all three of your characteristics are kind of right there. But with clear, it's all over the place. It's deep, it's light, it's, you know, it's here and there, because ultimately what you're seeing is a lot of tonality across the spectrum from very light to very deep.
Like her eyes are very light, her hair is very dark, her teeth are very light, her skin tone is very warm here. So all of
Hair
these
is very
competing,
cool.
right? All of these competing factors going on, but there is so much contrast, and that's where our clear category falls in versus our deep category.
But the one thing that you always have with a spring winter blend is the need for brightness or clarity or contrast.
Bold colors.
Right, which makes you a clear in the six dominant characteristic system.
All right, so let's bring it full circle, starting from 6 dominant characteristics. That is what we are basing this off of. We have our chart: light to deep, warm to cool, and soft to clear. I realize that we do it backwards, by the way, because when I do the chart, I flip it. So I should be going light to deep.
What are our hand gestures like backwards?
Yes.
Okay. But the bottom line is you've got 6 of these things.
Yep.
And the 6 of these things don't necessarily fall in line with the 4 seasons. So when we do color analysis, we start with the 4 seasons because that is basically 2 of the 6. You're looking at whether the hair is light to deep. There we go again.
Right. I know. We need to go backwards.
Right. Light to deep and warm to cool. So you got 2 of them there. But that's what, and we're doing it just with hair. But when you get into the 6 dominant characteristics, you can bring in the hair, the skin tone, the eye color, and we look at a spectrum.
Yes.
We actually, on our color analysis, we do it with a slider. And so we look at where you fall on the spectrum from light to deep, from warm to cool, from soft to clear. And maybe that's why we're doing our hands like this, because we're doing that slider. And that's how we determine your ultimate final season, which moves into the 12 or 16 palette system.
And if you would like to do a color analysis with us, you can absolutely hop on over to our website. You can join our wait list. Now, first open slots go to Patreon members. So you do receive first of our openings there, but we will release it to everyone
Eventually.
with time. Yes. If you want to see more of us, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. All of the links are down below in the description. We are also going to recommend hopping over to Patreon. Patreon, you can chat with us. We have such an amazing community right now. We are so excited to have just people that love color, that love style,
and
fashion.
Good analysts. I mean, I am so blown away by the quality of our members who are in their own right really good color analysts.
Right.
It's incredible.
We're having a ton of fun over there color analyzing like lipsticks, blushes, anything you can think of.
Pets.
So if you want to get on what season your pet is, hop on over to Patreon.
Yeah, we'll do pets.
All right. So if you want to help us out, don't forget liking, commenting, sharing, and do not forget to subscribe. The last thing that I always forget, subscribe.
So you forget it and you're expecting them not to forget it.
I'm sorry, guys. So please help me out. Don't get me in trouble. Subscribe. And then I think we went over everything. Right?
We did.
All right.
Now we can just let them disperse and go find all these cool websites and go to Patreon. Make sure we've stopped this video a little bit early so you have some time on Patreon.
So thank you for joining us today. I'm Sarah.
I'm Lucinda.
This has been another color class, and we'll see you in our next video.